I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man.
Hey guys, Andaull here today. So today we're going to be talking about adding a new series to my channel. We are going to go ahead and we're going to call it Cartoons Conspiracies. I got the idea from watching K-Mac's channel. If you guys want to go check him out, the link will be down in the description below. So the first one we are going to talk about is actually going to be Ed, Edd, and Eddy. It was one of my favorite childhood shows. It's something that I still like to enjoy to watch when it comes on every once in a while. So basically this is the purgatory, them dying, them living in the cul-de-sac and the afterlife theory. So I'm going to go ahead and read off some of this article to you guys, and I'll give you guys my thoughts and opinion on it, and you know what I mean. So basically, Rolf was the first to come here. Unlike most of us, he was born in a far-off lands, and even in the afterlife hasn't lost the touch of his old world upbringing. He lived in the neighborhood before it was developed. The son of a shepherd, he and the rest of his family came to start a farm on the lands that would soon turn into the place we would have all eventually reside. And he died in 1903 while tending to the family animals. The bull broke loose from its pen, and Rolf's efforts to stop the beast. He was trampled to death. That is why, even though he brought many of his family's livestock with him in spirit, he chose not to bring the cattle along. He continues to go about the farm's business on a daily basis, but is more than happy to occasionally neglect them to play with the other children of the neighborhood. So basically, Rolf had to feed the cattle and the chicken and all that stuff. It was his farm to take care of, his animals to take care of for his parents. And he went to go take care of the bull, and it got out of its pen and it killed him. It sounds pretty bad. So he was basically the first to come to the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac is their afterlife meeting place, by the way, guys. So we're going to move on to the second person, who is Johnny, which is the small guy with the plank, the wooden board, and the bald guy, the kid who always carries around the plank, the socially awkward kid. Anyway, so what it says is Johnny was always the lonely child. In fact, Rolf actually became his first human friend ever. When he came to the cul-de-sac after his death, his parents moved onto the grounds of Rolf's former farm. Not long after his death, with no other children around and no field work to take up his time, as it did Rolf's Johnny, drew into his own mind to a great extent from the plank was born. Together, they wandered about the countryside, climbing trees and getting themselves in trouble. Sadly, this didn't last forever, as a few years later, Johnny became bedridden with illness in 1922. He died after a long battle with tuberculosis. He saw his imaginary friend Plank standing by him to his last death. Even now in the afterlife, without the countryside to play in, Johnny still wastes much of his time frolicking through the backyards and streets. So basically, Johnny had a disease called tuberculosis, which I'm not quite sure what it does, guys. You guys might know. If you guys know, leave a comment in the comment section below. Anyways, so he basically didn't have any friends. He kind of grew up antisocial. That's how Plank was born, because he just got tired of being alone. He got tired of not having friends at all. He got tired of not knowing anybody. So he needed somebody to talk to. So therefore, Plank was born. So the next to come after Johnny was Eddy, which is the small main character, basically. Double D's the long-head one, and Ed's the dumb one. So Eddy was the one who always wanted the quarter. So Eddy was the next to come. Eddy was born in New York City, but moved to the neighborhood in 1932. Just as the Great Depression was hitting full swing, the neighborhood, while still different, was beginning to take form from the fields of its past and families. Moved in and split up the lands that had once belonged to Rolf's family. Always a schemer, Eddy looked to do anything to bring some comfort to his very bare family life, even if it cost him his friendship of others. Eddy died in 1939 after one of his grand plans to swindle a sap backfired. He drowned trying to cross the local river after trying to run away from the angry kids that he tried to deceive. Even in the afterlife, he keeps chasing after the almighty dollar. So basically, when Eddy was alive, before he died, he was trying to rip off the kids, and eventually all the kids got irritated, and they chased him out of town, basically, and when he tried to escape from them, he drowned in the river, and that's why in the afterlife, he is still trying to get the quarter, because that's what he was doing beforehand, always trying to get money. So he's always been stingy, guys. That's what it sounds like. So Sara and Ed came together not too long after that. By the late 40s, the cul-de-sac had already nearly taken its final form. As one of the pre-planned developments that became popular in the post-war era, As brother and sister growing up in the chaos of World War II, they both had various ways of escaping their lives as children of a dead GI and working mother. Sara became enraged and controlling as she sought to make sure that everyone around her knew that she was in charge, all in an attempt to copy off of her view of the hustle and bustle of her often working mother. Ed, on the other hand, went in about it in a different way. He just shut it out entirely. In fact, he shut out nearly everyone and everything in the world entirely, becoming what appeared to be a complete idiot. Ed chose instead to become completely involved in the monster movies and comic books that began to pop up after the war had ended. It wasn't too long after that, in 1953, Ed and Sara died in a car wreck as their mother was taking them to visit their grandparents. So, Ed and Sara were born in World War II. Their dad went to World War II. He died. And then Sara dealt with it by becoming the angry, controlling girl she is in the afterlife in the cul-de-sac. And Ed became like calmed down by reading comic books, which were really, really popular back in the 1940s, 50s. So he basically just kind of read magazines, and he never really went to school or got an education or never cared about it. So that's why he seemed so stupid in the like cartoon series in the afterlife. Nazz came a time after the brother and sister. Nazz was a flower child born to a pair of hippies turned establishment in the late 60s. She was a naturally beautiful girl that had always had her way with boys and men alike. She lived life on a whim and would often go about flirting and playing without any intention. She died in possibly the most horrible way of any children in the neighborhood in the summer of '79. A serial killer who had broken out of a local asylum had slipped into her house in the dead of the night and raped and killed her along with her entire family. In the trauma of these events, she, in a way similar to Ed, shut out the world entirely and forgot of her parents and siblings, which is why the afterlife she doesn't even ever receive demands from the non-existent parents, unlike many of the others. This gives her much more time to lounge around and party as she often does. So Nazz parties in the cartoon, if you guys notice, that is because she doesn't have parents, because she blames her parents for what happened to her, so she didn't even... they didn't even care, like, she didn't even, like, invite them or make them up, so that's all part of their imagination. So it didn't take too long before Ed, which was Double D, joined the rest of the neighborhood. He was the child of two highly controlling professionals, and the age agreed that, despite their constant absence, dominated his life. As such, Ed became quite the intellectual and rather meek from school, or rather absent, rather meek and shy figure. Always the curious type, he loved to experiment when given the time, away from school and in the constant chores of his parents. This would lead to his ultimate demise in 1986 as a gas leak combined with Bunsen burner from one of his experiments tore him and his house to pieces. Being the timid and subservient type, between various misadventures, Ed continued to follow the written orders of his parents long after his death. So he imagined his parents, that's why he always has chores and stuff to do, so that's about it for that. So Kevin was the next to join the group. He was born to the day of Ed's death and is in many ways his polar opposite. Kevin came from a broken home and developed a bold personality in life. He was the cynical and angry and took it out on many of the other children. His abusive father would rarely pay him any attention in life and would end up bringing about the end of it in a drunken rage. His father beat him after Kevin attempted to stand up to him. He died on the way to the hospital in the winter of 1999. His father spent the rest of his life in prison. In the afterlife, Kevin changed his perception to the opposite of what his life really was. With a distant father who would shower him with gifts, however, he continued to maintain his bullying even in death. So Kevin used to always be a bully back in life, and his dad bullied him. That's why he bullied people. But when he died, because his dad abused him, he imagined his dad being the nice dad that every kid wants, that showers his kids with gifts and spoils his kids to death. So we're going to go ahead and go into Jimmy. Well, he was the last to come to the cul-de-sac. He died in 2000, not long after moving into the house that Kevin's father had once lived in. He had leukemia since he was barely old enough to walk. As such, he was always a very sickly child, and due to his overprotective parents, he never really got to be around other children. He lived his days out in a small bedroom, completely neglected by the outside world. Jimmy lingered for quite some time in a state of near death, but in the end finally caved into suffering of his lifelong illness. So leukemia is a disease that I don't know what it does, but it makes you really sick. It can kill you. And he's had it for a while. So his parents closed him off into a room and wouldn't let him go outside, which was eventually his demise because he was just antisocial. So here's the last one. The Kanker Sisters were different from any other denizens of the cul-de-sac. They were nearly of the earthly plane of existence. Instead, they are children of demons, not too dissimilar from the Sakib of human lore. They seem to possess abilities impossible by the standards of others, such as the ability to appear nearly anywhere instantly. They were sent from hell to torment the already tortured souls of the neighborhood. Surprisingly, they are attracted to the Edds for unknown reasons. Although it's speculated that they are the weakest-willed members of the neighborhood and are seen as easy targets by them, despite that they are universally loathed and often featured by everyone, including the Edds. So basically, the Kanker Sisters are demons sent by the devil to torture the kids. But anyways, guys, that's it for this conspiracy. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you guys kind of think this is all crazy, or do you think this might be a possibility? Also, leave in the comment section what kind of other conspiracies you guys want to see. Leave a like on this video if you guys have liked it, and also subscribe to my channel if you guys want to see more content. I will see you guys in the next video. This has been Andaull. Have a nice day.